I think. Yep. Says we're on.
It says we're on. Says we're live. We're live. We
Live and
are
direct.
live, baby. And if you don't know, hey, I'm Kirk Samuel.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
It's for you. It ain't for us. It's for you.
It's for you.
We be talking anyway. It's for you. You know what I'm saying? This is for you.
This is how we do it anyway.
This is for you. We
letting
just
you listen in.
You know what I'm saying? We are
On the
absolutely your home for healthy masculinity. You know, we don't have it all figured out, man, but we are on the journey and we are inviting you, yes, you, to join in this journey with us for this episode of the Mad Men of Masculinity, baby. Your Mad Men Radio, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. Soon to be, hopefully, maybe we got some worldwide, international. Maybe we'll be on another planet. Maybe we can be on Mars. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if our space brothers want to come down and take me for a ride, I'm down.
We should be the first. We should be the first radio show on Mars.
Hell yeah!
What do you think?
Oh yeah.
What do you think we should do that?
I think we should.
We could be the first radio show on Mars.
I don't know if I want to go for. I might want to just visit though. I don't think I want to stay.
No, I mean I'm not talking about going, but we can broadcast.
Okay.
We can broadcast and we can be on Mars.
I like the way you think. Yes, we'll be the first men broadcasted on Mars.
Absolutely. We bring in masculinity to Mars.
Masculinity to Mars.
Because men are from Mars.
That's right. And
boom. You see the way we did it? You see the way we did that? We parlayed that, man. We parlayed that thing. We didn't even plan that. We went all the way around that mountain and we ended up with men being from Mars.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Speaking of Mars, man, one of my favorite little cartoon characters back in the day was Marvin the Martian.
I know, right?
You ever he's like, he had a little weird voice and all that kind of stuff, with a big old head. Man, I used to like him, man.
I like how he walked, had no legs, but he had big feet.
I used to like him, man. Marvin the Martian, man. Mad Men Radio on Mars. Because men are from Mars. We're gonna petition NASA.
We better be careful. They might send us to Mars.
You got that right, man. We're gonna petition NASA. And we're gonna say, hey.
I think we need to call Elon.
Because he'll probably get there first, right?
He'll get there first.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, man, and then we will petition him like, hey, man, we think it would be very apropos.
In our own personal opinion.
You know what I'm saying?
In our own personal opinion.
Like Marvin the Martian, man, we should put Mad Men Radio on Mars. Okay. Boom. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing that we're talking about, but it's everything that we're talking about.
I mean, we're talking about fatherhood and sons and men are from Mars. So I mean, there's a loose correlation there.
Yeah, sure, it's a loose correlation.
Why not?
Very unloose correlation. But absolutely,
you don't like how I connected those dots?
No, I don't like it at all. Them dots don't connect at all. You just like alley-oop from one dot to the next, man. They don't connect at all.
That's how I make my dot connection.
I dig it, man. I dig it. It's all good, man. It's all good, man. I'm loving this, man. It's as we record this, man, it's weather's changing. Weather's always changing.
It's officially summer in Mile High City.
Yeah. I mean, every season is on the way from one season to the next season, right? So, weather's always changing. But man, this is what we do, man. This is good stuff.
I mean,
man.
This was kind of your idea, so I'm gonna set it up, give you a little softball, and
actually, I was hoping that you more articulate than me, man. You bring stuff.
I don't know about all that, but this was
you're more eloquent. You're more eloquent. You're more poetic.
I'm more loquacious at times.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm more eloquent.
That's true. That's very true. It depends.
But since we are talking about the wisdom of fathers.
I'm not taking one more step. We're not saying another word. We're not saying another word until we recognize what happened just over 24 hours ago. Come on, man. We can't go any farther without recognizing what happened.
That's right.
Just over 24 hours ago, man. You were there.
I was there.
You were there. What did you witness?
I witnessed my man, Kirk Samuels, the one and only, hit his first, hopefully not only,
hole in one, baby. That's right. I got a hole in one, baby. And every guy out there, man, you know that. You know, man, I had 3 witnesses, and I'm telling you, it was a day.
It was a good one too, because the way you hit it, it went off to the right, and we thought there's no way, there ain't no way. And then it bounced over the rake onto the green, and it just
kept rolling, man. It kept rolling. It's like, man, it is getting real close.
Somebody's blessed.
I was like, dude, this will be an easy putt, man. This will be easy. Man, the putt is getting easier. And then, then all of a sudden, it just dropped off. It just dropped off the green and disappeared, man.
I ain't gonna say I'm jealous, but I'm jealous.
Dude, we went crazy, dude.
I ain't had a hole in one except for Tiger Woods on PlayStation and putt.
Dude, that was dope, man. That was. I mean, I'm
that
telling you,
was
that was a good feeling, man. Everybody went crazy, and you know, man, it was just, and that's totally one of those guy things, man. You know, it's like you win, we win kind of thing, and you know, we out there, and I think that's why guys like.
I didn't mind that you beat me by 1 stroke because you had a hole in one.
Because I had a hole in one, man. And I probably gave myself a few gray strokes in there. So anyhow, all right. So boom. So we got the important thing out of the way. The important thing, and it was documented. I got pictures. I got witnesses.
I just wish we had video, but I mean, how you know?
Yeah,
there's no way.
Yeah, no way can you have video out there, man. So, but that was a glorious day, man. That was a day.
That was a good Sunday morning.
That was a good day, man. Perfect weather, perfect time, perfect guys, perfect shot off the tee on number 4. Boom. Done deal. So, all right, now we can move on to what we were talking about. We, you know, as we do sometimes when we get done,
we may jibber jabber a little bit.
You know, we talk and have these conversations, and we were talking about the whole idea of, you know, kind of fatherly wisdom, fatherly advice, fatherly guidance. You know, and when I say fatherly, I'm not even necessarily talking about just a role, a parental role, but from one generation to the next, right? Where we pass down, ideally anyway, we pass down information. More importantly, we pass down wisdom to the next generation, so that ideally the next generation, you know, is better off than this generation.
Yeah, I think it's probably a lot of the things we wish we had heard or somebody had told us when we were younger that we had to learn the hard way. So now we're going to do you the favor.
Yeah.
And hopefully the younger generation the favor of passing along some of that wisdom that we have learned the hard way, because hitting my head against the wall as a man has been become a very, very big pastime of mine, you know, learning the hard way.
at least one big aha. Hopefully we can hit at least one aha.
Well, and that's the thing too. You know, you may not agree with everything we say. We don't agree with each other all the time. But if you take one thing away, something that you can use in your life, then it's a win. So don't try to adopt everything and remember everything. You know, hopefully you'll come back and listen again and get something else.
Yeah, and you know, most of the time I've found anyway, most of the time things that we would consider to be like man wisdom is pretty universal.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, you know, you throw something out there. Rarely have I thrown something out there to even a group of guys that was kind of man wisdom kind of stuff, and guys were like, you don't know what you're talking about. Most of the time it's like, yeah, you're right about that. And so that's
what I wanted you to get into, because I know, I mean, shout out to RJ because he just graduated and he's on his way to the Navy. He's at MEPS, all that. But that conversation that you had with him that spurred this idea, I think that's where we need to start, because that's what got us going here.
Yeah, and you know, the reality is, and shout out RJ being my son, that you know, he kind of, you know, all truth out there. Now. Yeah, he's doing this thing, man. I get so proud of him. And, you know, I have a lot of or had a lot of insecurities about my fatherhood. First of all, through my origin story, right? I mean, I didn't get a lot of those things naturally that were passed down to me. And so, you know, having a lot of those kind of insecurities. And now I find just right at this stage where he is transitioning, you know, hit the clutch and he transitioned from one gear to the next, and he's transitioning into manhood. I find that I get to now like get real with him on some stuff, like some real stuff. And so it's kind of fulfilling too, because I can talk to him from experience. Like I have been exactly where you are 30 years ago. Like 30 years ago, I was a new graduate of high school. You know, I had military aspirations. You know, I kind of found my way through some wilderness and all these other kind of things. And I'm just like, here are the exact landmines that I hit when I was where you were. And I'm telling you, these are the things that I don't want you to do.
Yeah, I wish I had that conversation with my father. Yes. It was kind of like, well, go get him, sink or swim. You know, there was no thought, or maybe it was an afterthought. Maybe afterwards he was like, maybe I should especially with a lot of the landmines I stepped on and hand grenades I picked up.
There
was a lot of things that I think afterwards he's like, how could you? Why? What were you thinking? It's like, well, I was doing what I was taught at the time, which didn't translate to adult life.
And you know, again, when it comes down to it, you know, being able to have like we even in this context, like real talk, you know, being able to have that real talk, like we haven't grown man talk, right? I mean, and so me being able to have some grown man talk with him specifically over the last, I'm gonna say, month or so, you know, like, hey man, we're gonna keep it real. And you know, as he's going through stuff and as he's experiencing things with family and girls and just the thoughts and all these other things, it's like, man, just being able to cut straight to the chase and be like, and really, I think part of it kind of humanizes me to him. Like, guess what, bro? I've been here, done that, and here's exactly. So a lot of things you see, a lot of, yeah, right. I'm just a guy 30 years ahead of where you are now, literally exactly 30 years ahead of where he is now. And so being able to relate to that and being able to like share with him some of the things that he knows or sees in his life, it's like, this is why that's like that now. Like when you see, that marriage broke down, this is why, and so you can replay the tape and you can rewind and you can break things down in some real ways, man. And so, so I think, and like I said, I don't even know that comes from a specific, just a father perspective. I mean, because we've also done like a rite of passage thing for young men, and and some of that is kind of along those same lines of just passing down wisdom.
Yeah. Well, and I think if it wasn't for him participating in that rite of passage that you even put on, I don't think he would have necessarily, because I mean, the one big thing is that not only did you pass on the wisdom, he listened and took it in. Right. And I think if he had not had that experience that you put him through the rite of passage that you put on, I don't know that he would have been in a mental space to even accept, because I think back on like, I wish dad had said X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And then I think, but I haven't even been in a mental space to hear that.
Right.
As an 18, 19-year-old kid that fresh out, just wanted to spread my wings and go out and just run my head into the wall at full speed, like most young men do.
Yeah.
The fact that he had that experience, maybe that, I mean, couldn't just be how he is. He may have just listened anyway. Although I think that it was a contributing factor, the fact that he had his own thing. So.
And ideally, like even in the context of us doing that particular day or 2 days or whatever it was, 24 hours, even the whole point behind all of that was just wisdom being passed down from men to young men. Because as males, we're a young man, and then at some point we're an old man, but nobody ever says like, okay, now you're a man, right? And so just being able to, especially nowadays, that's not a thing in our culture. So being able to pass down these types of wisdom, being able to pass these things down, man, is huge. And like I said, it's not even just, I mean, because my son is adopted, so I'm not even his biological father, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to pass. I mean, I am his father. I mean, and that's, we don't doubt that at all. But I am the father figure, not even just the biological DNA father. And I think so many of us men are father figures and we don't even realize it. But if nothing else, we should be father figures, whether you have a biological son or not.
Yeah, I think, and to the point of the rite of passage, I mean, something that was a traditional point of tribal society, of village society, of the men taking the boys away to have these experiences, whether they're hunter-gatherers or whatnot, to say, okay, now you're at the age, you're becoming men. Yeah. Like, you're drawing the line, you're no longer boys, now you're becoming men. You're not a man yet, you're becoming a man. Right. And having that delineation where we go, okay, now I'm no longer just a boy or I'm just a kid. No, I'm becoming a man. And when I reach certain milestones or when I get to a certain age, then I'll be a man.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think these are profound things that we as men offer, again, in the context of fatherhood, Father's Day, fathers, whatever, father-ish, father, whatever it is. These are the context. So, man, let's take a break and we'll come back and let's talk about, at least one or two of those things that we brought up here with the weekend.
Pause for the cause.
Little pause for the cause here on Mad Radio. That's right, baby. KLDZ 1220 AM in the Mile High City. And
right back.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to bump this one up, since we were going to be referencing Father's Day.
Oh,
right on. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right on. Although a hole in one is universal ever, but yeah, yesterday. Yeah, I won't say what day of the week. I won't say a day of the week. Yeah.
Well, they'll just be confused. Like, what? Yeah. What? Yesterday was Friday. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Right on. Boom. All right, we ready to go?
Yeah. Let me make sure my phone is completely silent, not just on vibrate, because that was the worst time to have a text message. There we go. All right. And we're back. Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC 1220 AM, your home for healthy masculinity.
We're back.
Oh, the boys are back.
The boys are back. The boys are back in town. We're having, since this is the home of healthy masculinity. Healthy masculinity is generational, right? And so, so we're talking about these types of wisdom that we pass down, from generation to generation. And I've had the opportunity to pass down some wisdom from my life. Not that I by far know everything, not that I got it all figured out. I'm still a long way from where I want to be. But at the same time, I am literally 30 years ahead of my son in a whole lot of ways, like a whole lot of ways. And so, if nothing else, I have to offer him my wisdom or my experience from my life, which, wisdom is, lessons that you learn and that you ideally apply, right? And so, so I think that's the gift of being able to have those things to pass along. So, so as he goes, off into the military, and like most of us have at one point, especially as young men, he's kind of had a time in the wilderness, I like to call it, where he was just kind of trying to find himself and had a whole lot of things, get to the end of, say, high school, and start to think of like, oh man, what next? Like, what do I do next? And I think he had a time in the wilderness, man. And you and other guys that I know that I'm really close with, it was hard for me to go through that because everybody was kind of questioning me as a father through that, right? And you and other guys were supportive of me as I was going through that whole thing. And so that kind of, first and foremost, that's actually, that's a huge thing to recognize and to point out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's so important for there to be a healthy masculine presence through a boy's life, especially when he hits puberty, when he starts, from 10, 11 on up. There needs to be some sort of male presence, especially a healthy male presence, so that they can learn, because that's when you go through that whole process of puberty and getting into who am I, what am I, what do I like, what do I don't like, and all these different things. Mm-hmm. And then go into, manhood, basically. And if you don't have a healthy masculine presence, you don't have somebody there to go, hey, maybe this, maybe that, or here's what I've learned, or whatnot. And a lot of us have that. I know for me, I was actually living with my mother, and I went to go visit my father in San Antonio. And then when I came back, just something in me was like, I need to be with my dad. And bless my mother, thank her for allowing me to go, because I needed to be in his presence. Now, like you, in a lot of ways, he didn't have the best upbringing. His father passed when he was 5 years old from a drunk driving accident. So when he had me, basically was kind of like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't think I can be a father, because he didn't have that great fatherly role model. So he did the best he could, which, like it or lump it, is what it is. I learned what I learned, became who I am because of what he taught me, whether good, bad, right, or wrong. That is what I got. And then because of that, we're here today. You and I are doing this because we are so passionate about passing on the wisdom that we have learned, and a lot of the hard knocks we have taken, and hopefully to save a lot of the younger generation time and heartache by not having to go through those things.
And then, I want to point out that I think it's also crucial and critical for men to have other men in your life to support you. Not only, whether you're single, married, whether you're a parent or not, just to have other men in your life to support you. But in this particular case, to have other men support me as a father, as I was going through my father journey with my son in this particular case, and everything that he was going through and all those kinds of things. And so I think it was huge and important, to have a circle of guys around me, all different shapes, sizes, ages, races. Just from different perspectives, all having just different experiences. And even when we went back to, that rite of passage experience, that was just men of different backgrounds, ages, races, perspectives, all just sharing one major piece of wisdom. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as men to make sure that we are living in circles of other men, even if, even if we start off listening to, to Mad Men on the radio, man, and just getting in circles, because that was absolutely huge. And like I said, in that case, him going through that wilderness experience, man, and living, going to 3 different high schools in 2 different states in the course of a year. But he figured it out, man. He brought it back. And at some point, he brought it back and figured it out, man. So
that's I think probably the biggest lesson, and one of the things that without having healthy masculinity in a child's life, or having a rite of passage sort of thing for them to go through to build that masculine muscle, to build that mindset of, okay, now I'm becoming a man, you missed out. And a lot of times I see young men being stunted out of it. Stunted may not be the right word, though, when they're not allowed to make their own mistakes. They're not allowed to fall on their face. They're not allowed to go out and make mistakes.
Right.
And you basically hold that safe, like, home base, like, okay, if that's what you want to do, all right. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You need to go out and make some mistakes.
Yeah.
Just know I'm here for when you either want to come back, or you need some support, or you fall flat on your face and you need some wisdom. That's what I'm here for. I'm not going to make your mistakes for you. And I think a lot of young people nowadays are missing out on the wisdom and the growth that you get from just getting out in the world and making mistakes. If you're moving forward, there really is no such thing as failure as long as you're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And a failure, a lot of times, is what we consider a quote unquote failure. It's the one thing that you learn the most from.
Yeah.
You learn how not to do something. You learn how to do something. You learn how things work the best. You learn what is right for you versus what's wrong for you. You learn what you want and what you don't want from all those things. And if we're not allowing our young men to do those things, then how can they grow into men who are capable and confident if they haven't had failures?
Yeah, and I think this is probably we'll consider this wisdom marker number 1. We'll be more real in the next segment with the. I'll say like real, like here's the 2 things that whole part. Yeah, we'll get that in the next segment. But I think that the mile marker here, just in terms of wisdom, is that we do go through the wilderness kind of experience, and we can't protect young men from. We can't bubble wrap them. We can't bubble wrap them and strap a helmet and elbow pads and knee pads and all those kinds of things, and then go tell them to ride a bike. Some part of riding a bike is falling and busting a lip open maybe, or getting some knee scabs or something like that. And it's like I think there is a part to it of there. I think there is a healthy perspective to say rub some dirt on it kind of thing, not from things aren't supposed to hurt, but when they do, it'll be okay. I think that was the whole, to me, that was the good message in the, get up, suck it up, rub some dirt on it, is like, it'll be okay. And so for him and other young men to take that wilderness, sometimes it just takes a minute for the light to come on, man. And you got to go through those wilderness experiences in order to find, the promised land that is whatever it's going to be in your life.
Yeah. I mean, we do a disservice a lot of times to our young men by over coddling them and, the participation trophies and all these different things, allowing them to fail, allowing them to fall on their face, allowing them to get some cuts and bruises, and allowing them to experience some pain. I mean, pain is the biggest teacher. It is the biggest teacher of wisdom. Yep. And if we are overly protective, if we bubble wrap them and become helicopter parents and don't allow them, I mean, because what we end up doing when we are overly protective and we have that mindset of as the older adult or the parents think, oh well, I have to make sure their life is perfect, they can do better than me, they have no challenges. Mm-hmm. Well, now that's great and all while they're in the house, while you're there protecting them and holding space for them. But once they're out of the house and you're no longer there, now they're ill prepared for the real world. Mm-hmm. So allowing them to go through the wilderness and have those journeys, have those cuts and scrapes, and have you be there as that conduit of wisdom, as that sounding board to go, okay, what'd you think about that? Yeah. What was your experience of that? Here's what I think, or here's what my experience, and allowing them to learn from that and grow from that. But too much, I don't want to keep harping on the fact that over coddling or over being too safe with your kids, it may be a good thing while they're at home. Yeah. If your job as the adult, as the wisdom keeper, as a parent, is to prepare them for the world. Yeah. And that means allowing them to fail, allowing them to bump their head and their knees and get out there and experience a little pain.
A little pain is important, man, and to allow them to experience that whole thing, man. And I think, And I think, it might not be very politically correct, but I think sometimes it's to teach them it's okay to fight. I mean, sometimes you got to fight, and fighting is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, fighting can be literal or it can be metaphorical, but at the same time to let him, he had an instance where he got into a fist fight, and by his account, it didn't go so well, but at the same time, it's like, but you're still here, right? What did you learn from that? What did you pick up on that? And on his own, like he went out, he got into some boxing, started taking some boxing lessons, all that kind of stuff. But that goes back to like the movie Friday, and when Debo came up, Craig wanted to go get the gun, and his father was like, "No, man, put the gun down, put the gun down." That's punks do. This is what we used to do. We put you win some, you lose some. But you got to fight another day, as opposed to making them afraid to fight, and then their only outlet when they're backed into a corner is to go and create these mass violent situations, these mass killings and all this other kind of stuff, because they're afraid of the pain, and so to show them and teach them that it's okay to sometimes you lose, but it's good to lose when it's a good fight. Like you can still learn something from that, but to just avoid any kind of conflict or avoid fight, because then it's like, how do you not, if it's not okay to fight, then how do you say it's okay to fight for your beliefs, your country, your family, to stand up for what's right, all those kinds of things. So, to that point, man, pain is important to get into that equation.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never, coming from the wiser, older, more mature masculine, if we can even say we are that at this point, we have more experience. We can help the younger generation know when fighting is appropriate, know when to stand their ground. And if you've never been punched in the face and you don't know what it's like, you're always going to be afraid of that. Once you've had that experience, once you've experienced, getting knocked down and getting back up, once you've had those experiences of pain and then healing and all that, then you are less afraid and more confident to go out into the world and know when you stand up for yourself, know when you hold your ground, know when to fight. If you don't have those experiences growing up, then guess what? Those experiences can come hit you across the side of the head like a 2x4 anyway. And so then you either have to teach yourself, or like a lot of guys, they just lose it. And they could go many different ways. They get depressed, they could get alcoholic, they get addicted, or they could go, serial killer.
Man. One way. And that's the thing, man. When you teach them how to handle that adversity and to come out the other end of that adversity and to see, like, okay, I can go through something and it can be painful, it can be uncomfortable, but I can make it, I can survive. That's ideally, those are ideally the kind of the lessons we want to teach the next generation. I think right now, part of the reason why we're seeing these outward signs of mass violence in young men is because we're not teaching them healthy adversity. We're not teaching them I'm not talking about teaching them to be bullies. I'm not teaching them to go out and pick fights, but how to deal with it when it comes. Absolutely. And so when the adversity comes, when the challenge comes, and all those kinds of things. And so, those are the kind of things, that's one nugget of wisdom. I think, man, it's okay to get punched in the face. It's okay to go through the wilderness. It's okay to lose and have some adversity and to learn how to bounce back from that.
Yeah. And if you haven't had the experience, maybe get with your guys and punch each other in the face. It clears your sinuses.
Fight Club.
And definitely makes you think. So,
because what happens at Fight Club stays at Fight Club.
Speaking of Fight Club, time for pause for the cause.
Nice. All right.
You want to bring us back in?
Yeah, I'll bring us back in segment 3. Here we go. And we are back to Mad Men Radio, baby. That's right, Mad Men of Masculinity in the Mile High City, man. We are up here at Crawford Broadcasting, KLDC 1220 AM, all over the internet. We're going to be on Mars at some point, because men are from Mars. And so, if you got a Mad Men of Masculinity, you got Mad Men of Masculinity in Mars. I don't know. There's another
right there.
We'll fit right in there, man. Mad Men of Masculinity. Mad Men of Martian Masculinity. Boom. Boom. Brand that. Hashtag that bad boy.
That's right.
That's what we're doing. We're talking about
mature wisdom from the masculine side,
passed down from one generation to the next. So whether you want to call that like fatherly type of wisdom or fatherly type of passed down and all those kinds of things, whatever you want to call that. Either way, man, these are, this is the whole idea of the things that we can pass down. And I'm going to call it from a fatherly spirit or fatherly heart, like a fatherly place. And I think, again, I don't think, I think that's might even be a little bit separate from your biological role or your family role, whether you have kids or not. I think we're all, and we should be, we should consider ourselves kind of somewhat fathers to the next generation.
Yeah, I think we're missing out a lot on the younger generation is definitely missing out a lot on either not having a father in the home, not having uncles, or not having healthy masculine influences.
Yeah.
So it's incumbent to us as the men, the older men, mature men, whichever label you will accept, because we don't want to call you all old or whatnot.
Right.
You do have years on these younger generations. You do have experience, and so it's incumbent upon us to share what we have learned. So that they aren't blindsided by life, like frankly a lot of us were. We went out into the world, and then things happened, and then whether we were supported or not through those things, we learned the hard way that this is something to pay attention to. This is something to be aware of as a man out in the world. As a young man growing into a man out in the world, there are a lot of pitfalls and landmines that you can step on. I know one of the things, especially we wanted to talk about, are some of those things.
Ooh, can I get real?
I was setting you up.
Can I get real? But can I get real though?
I think so.
I mean, don't kill me, man. Don't set me up.
Just make sure it's FCC.
Don't let me get real, man. Don't let me get real and then you leave me hanging out here.
It's real time.
All right, if I can be real, this is real talk.
It's the real world, baby. Mad Men,
yeah, real talk for you. That's what we do, man. This is the home for healthy
masculinity. Your seatbelt, you put your seat backs and tray tables in their full upright position. It's real talk time.
So, man, I had this conversation with him, and he's kind of right now, anyway, it looks like he's kind of lining up to do the military thing, and he's got a plan, and he came up with all this on his own. He's got a plan on what he wants to do and where he wants to go, and kind of the career and all these other kind of things. And he's got his friends. He just graduated. He's got his friends, he's got a girl, and all this other kind of stuff. And so, one of the things that he and I talked about was how there was so many options. Like there's so many things like in life of like, well, what do I do this? I want to do this. I want to do that. And I'm just like, man, and then he has so many things that he was worried about. I said, dude, okay, let's do this.
Let's break it down.
Let's narrow it down. Let's narrow it down here. Okay, I'm going to take all these things that you worried about, all these things that you worried about not doing, and all these other kind of things. I said, well, let's narrow this down to 2 landmines. Let's narrow this down to 2 things. Here's my 2 things that I want you to remember. I said, here's the 2 things. Don't get locked up and don't get nobody knocked up.
That's right.
Don't get locked up. Don't get no stupid felony, because then, you can't really, it's hard to recover from that. And don't go get nobody pregnant, because it's hard to recover from that. 18 years, 18th birthday, you find out what it is. Dude, we keep it real, dude. And so I'm just like, let's narrow down to those 2 things. How about that? How about we just focus on, don't go hanging out with the knuckleheads, doing something stupid and getting locked up for something dumb, and then you got that on your record. And let's not create a life that now you can't go do what you want to do because you know what you got to do. And so how about let's keep it to those 2 things, man? And so it was the whole idea of taking the big, taking the macro, making it micro, and let's just narrow it down to these 2 things. And if he can wake up in the morning, and if I can get him in the boot camp, without those 2 things, I think we'll be okay.
Well, and keeping it simple like that, because I remember coming out of high school and being a young kid, and the sky's the limit, the world's your oyster, and all those different things, and you don't know what to do. You don't even know what you want to do.
Right.
And so keeping it simple, what are the simple wisdoms that we can give to the young generation that, like, okay, if I knew these 2 things, everything else will kind of work itself out, because at least I know I'm not going to be locked up. I'm not going to suddenly be a daddy. I can move forward for pretty much everything else, because everything else you can handle that. It's not going to be a huge deal, because you're not locked up for however many years, and you're also not on the hook for 20 years.
I mean, because let's be real, at 19, man, you got time for 2 or 3 more careers, right? In terms of like, what do I want to do when I grow up? Like some of us, man, 30 years later, I'm still like, what do I want to be when I grow up, right? I mean, and so, I'm 49, and we just launching a brand new radio show, right?
Radio on Mars.
And so, when I'm like, you can pick this career and say, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. You can do that over and over again. So, man, you ain't got to worry about figuring out what you want to do for the rest of your life now. All you got to figure out is what is the next thing you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact, I mean, we even had this conversation right after we were talking about this, that having had our military experiences, when I was 19, 20, 21, 22 in the military, thinking, oh my Lord, 20 years is so far. I'm barely 20 years myself.
Man, boom.
It went by so
Going by
fast.
just
And
like
I
that,
think about it
dude.
myself now, like I could have a whole retirement.
Yeah.
I could and start my second career with a nest egg and have guaranteed income.
Yep.
These are things that because we've had the experience, we can pass on, and maybe they take it, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
It's their journey, it's their life. However, to say, look, young man, you're going to go in and spend at least 4 years.
Yeah.
Just quadruple that.
Yeah.
Do 20. You will have a retirement. You will have an income.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both ex-military,
Yeah.
so we may be a little more pro-military. So we're not saying you have to do these things. We're just saying
if
you do,
Yeah.
here's something to look at, because it makes life a whole lot easier. Like, I think about how much easier my life would have been if I was already collecting my retirement from the military.
Dude, I went to boot camp 31 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Literally 31 years ago, like this week. Because I graduated high school on June 7th, and that was on a Friday, and Monday I shipped out to go to boot camp. So that would be like this week, basically, or this week or last week that I shipped out to go to boot camp. That was 31 years. That was 1991, right? And so, I mean, so yeah, from a time perspective, man, and it goes by like that, man. And so, so anyhow, so yeah, my advice to him, even in the context of, thinking about the big picture and getting so caught up in, because at the time, like I saw Top Gun and I wanted to be a Coast Guard helicopter pilot, right? And so I came up with this whole game plan, this whole whatever. And man, since then, that didn't go that way. But I think of this and this and that opened the door for this and that opened the door for that and all these other kind of things, man. And it has its way of working out. But you don't have to figure out the long term. Just focus on the short term. And while we focus on the short term, here's two things I need you to not do. Those are like the big pitfalls, right? I mean, there's.
Well, I mean, how many guys do we know from our basic class or from being young kids in the military who did get either went to jail or I think we had like 3 or 4 marriages in my basic class or my technical class, and I don't know how many of those lasted much after deployments.
And so these are the kind of wisdom things that I think, and I feel like excuse me, I had a cough. I feel like once I kind of put things in that perspective for him and at least like took away all of the everything and just narrowed it down to the one or two thing, I think that took the weight and the pressure off of him, or at least it felt like it seemed like it anyway, took the weight and pressure off of him to be like, okay, well then how about I just do this? And then, and then he's able to move forward to that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that we as the mature masculine, the mature men, those that have years and years of experience, decades more experience than these young men, the younger generation, we can narrow these things down and go, no, don't worry about all that. How about these 2 things or these 3 things? Follow your heart. Don't go to jail. Don't knock anybody up. Like if you can do those 3 things, then you're gonna find your path. Because everybody's path is winding. It's not straight. It's gonna be pitfalls, ups and downs, and all those things. You will make the next step. You will make the next choice when it's presented to you. So don't worry about all that. Worry about these things.
And again, a lot of that comes from things that I've experienced. A lot of that comes from things that I've heard. But in any case, I'm telling him, I'm like, okay, you just graduated high school, right? You got some friends that, maybe they don't have that sense of direction that you have, right? So maybe in their minds, they may not necessarily be looking out for you when y'all are rolling around, when you're hanging out. They might, they might not see the importance of not going to do something stupid. And I'm like, dude, and I said, and don't be nowhere near around nobody smoking weed. Like, because the last thing you need is to get some secondhand smoke. You ship off the MEPS, and next thing you know, you tested positive for something that you didn't do. Just stuff like that. And I said, and don't believe somebody that tells you they're on a pill and, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, and I said, let me tell you something. Just the tip will get you 18 years, man. I mean, so don't even just go there a little bit. Just, dude, stay to your narrow path. and recognize that you got to keep yours first. And here's what I'm trying to do, and I need to make sure that nothing gets in the way of everything that I'm trying to accomplish right now.
Well, I have a story. If we have time before our next break, I have a story that illustrates why hanging out with knuckleheads is a bad idea. Especially at that time.
Yeah, and see, and like I said, man, that'd be a great pickup on our next segment here. But I mean, I think these are the kind of things that we have experienced these things, and so yeah, to be able to transfer that wisdom and that knowledge from our experience, man, you don't have to have a degree in rocket science to have something to offer to the next generation or to a brother or to a friend or whatever it is.
All we got to do is just tell them the dumb things that we did that we either got away with or didn't get away with or that we went through.
Yeah.
So that maybe they can go, oh, yeah, maybe I won't do that.
And so many of us think that we're the only ones that do something, right? I mean, and like you do. And it's, yeah, man. I mean, a lot of these things are common, man. A lot of these things that we go through are just common.
Especially for us guys. I don't know how many times I've said something that I felt like, oh, this is just gonna be me.
Yeah.
And every other dude was like, oh no,
yeah,
me too.
Me too.
Really? Oh, now I feel almost normal.
Absolutely. And so when we share these things, man, that's the wisdom. These are the things that, and like I said, these things come from I'll say a fatherly, quote unquote, air quote perspective, when it's really not even necessarily I'm your father or you're my son or I am your father. Yeah, and then even that. But these are the experiences that we have, man, that we can pass these things down and we can actually impact not only, for sure the next generation, but as well as the friends and whatever. Because I've had other friends, buddies of mine that I kick myself because I've seen them go down like relationship paths, and I sit back and I just cringe, but I'm like, I don't want to say nothing because it's not my business to say nothing, And then afterwards, when that crumbles down, I kind of feel guilty because, and several of us other friends were thinking the same things, and it's like none of us said nothing, even though we were in the room when we saw this, and none of us said nothing, and it's like, man.
I mean, even at that time, even if they didn't appreciate it at the time, at least you said it. So that, because I even said this to one of my best friends, because after an ex and I broke up, she's like, oh, I didn't like her and this and that, and she did this, she did that. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Well, I didn't want to upset you. Like, well, at least when she started going nuts, if you had said something, that seed would have been in my ear, so that I would have been like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
So-and-so said, and this person said, oh,
yeah,
maybe they're right.
So, man, I want to hear that story, but let's take this break here. We're at Mad Men Radio on KLDC, Mile High City, 12:20 a.m. and on the interwebs everywhere. Soon to be on Mars. We'll be right back. But that segment was like 14, almost right at 14. So maybe we'll
shorten the next
cheat on this one a little bit.
All right,
a little shorter. This is last segment, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're back. Mad Men Radio on KLDC, 12:20 a.m.
We back.
High City.
We back.
It's a hot night.
We back.
Boy.
We back. And we is back. And we talking about wisdom, whether you want to call it fatherly wisdom or just
pure masculine wisdom.
Yeah, wisdom passed down from one to the next, man. And so what's the story you got, man? Give some guys, maybe it's the next generation, some guy that's going to be a young kid in the military or wherever, what's this wisdom you got to pass down?
We talked about in the last segment you essence down the two things you want to keep in mind. Don't get locked up and don't knock anybody up. And I added in the third one, follow your heart. Because not all the knuckleheads that even if they're your buddies from high school or the military or college and like that, have your best interests at heart. So the night before my graduation, I was bored. All my family
high school graduation.
High school graduation. Okay. And I was already delayed enlisted to go to the Air Force, so that was already set up. I think I had a month off, and I went into basic in August. But I was bored and wanted to get out and do something. The world was enticing me, so I can't remember if I paged. It was back in the 90s, so it was time of the pagers.
Yeah, beeper. Beep.
But I messaged some of my buddies from one of my high schools, because I went to one high school my junior year and another my senior year. And all of a sudden I get a message back, yeah, meet us over here by the mall. I'm like, all right. So I show up thinking we're gonna go party or go do something. Come to find out they were on a mission because they were trying to find some dude they thought had assaulted some girl from one gang, this other gang, and all these different things. And because I had a truck, they decided I would be good transportation. So I picked these dudes up, and I knew most of them, but there was a couple I didn't know. One dude in particular I didn't know, and we drove all over Creation that night and ended up in front of this guy's house. Well, this dude, I guess he knew what was up. He came outside with a gun and a phone and called the cops. And we took off. We should have been gone scot-free, though they told me to follow the knucklehead in front of me. And they ended up like turning around back into the same neighborhood like they were going to do something. Anyway, long story short, the cops showed up, boxed us in, pulled us all out of the vehicles, and I'm like not worried. I'm like, all they're going to find is a pocket knife in the door or this or that and everything. Then one of the cops goes, "Whose truck is this?" And all of a sudden, all the blood drained from my body. I'm like, "Mine." He's like, "You're going to jail." I'm like, what's going on? Well, one of the knuckleheads, some 16-year-old kid who had been in there, had a revolver that he stuck under my seat when the cops showed up. So when they searched my car, I'm thinking, they're not going to find nothing. I almost went to jail that night. I sat in the back of a police car, handcuffed for like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the middle of the night until somebody talked to the other guy and was like, he's 18. He'll like get a felony charge. You're 16. It'll be juvenile, no big deal, whatever. So he finally fessed up. But they ended up at that night, they ended up impounding my truck. They had to call my dad at like 3:30 in the morning, come get me and all this stuff. It was, don't hang out with knuckleheads. Just don't. Because you may think they're your friends, especially when you're that age. All you got is your friends and everything. You got to follow your heart. You got to use some common sense because they probably don't have your best interests at heart.
And see, that's the kind of stuff that that's kind of stuff that especially when you're younger, man, you don't think about that, man. You don't think about the fact that everybody, everybody on your highway ain't getting off at your ramp. They ain't getting off at your exit, right? And so they don't care. Your boys don't care. I mean, I'm obviously not generalizing all of them, but at the same time, you better watch. Who you. I mean, there's movies. I mean, you can think of all kinds of stories where you're just wrong place at the wrong time, man. And so when it comes to that wisdom, that youthful wisdom and all that, man, some of that is like, man, you better watch who you're hanging around, man. And that includes females, man. That includes females, man.
Especially as a young man.
Oh, man, especially when they see you going somewhere, man. Especially when they see you going somewhere, man. I
mean, how many movies have we seen where the head cheerleader's looking after the head quarterback because he's supposed to be going somewhere, getting out of this small town, all this stuff, and then they end up never leaving because he knocked her up. Now they both work at the Piggly Wiggly.
I mean, and these are classic stories from movies or whatever, and this is like real talk. Like this is real stuff, man. And so if you're a guy, and I mean, if you're on a path and on a journey, I think whether you're younger or even older, man, you got to guard your you gotta guard your space, man. You gotta guard your path in your journey, man. And that's from your boys, your guys, maybe even from family. I mean, and definitely even from females, man. You gotta watch out for all that kind of stuff, man. Because I'm telling you, I mean, it's easy
to get distracted.
So easy, man.
That's why I wanted to add the follow your heart thing, because your path is going to be yours. It's going to be your own. Your family may not understand it. Your buddies, your girlfriends may not understand it, but it's up to you. It's part of your why and your purpose to follow that path, because they may not be your path all your life, though it may lead to your path. It may lead to your thing, but this is a step, a direction you need to take. So if you're not honoring your heart and your direction and whatever it is that's pulling you and driving you, that you're magnetized to, that needs to be your priority. All the other stuff will come with it at some point. Don't let somebody pull you off, because those knucklehead friends of yours or that high school girlfriend may not be on that path. I know it seems like the end of the world when they leave. Don't worry, there's more people, more friends.
It'll be okay. But absolutely, everybody is not going where you're going. And quite honestly, you get hooked up to the wrong people. They can keep you from going to where you want to go. I mean, dude, check it out. Both Elon Musk and Johnny Depp dated Amber Heard.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Elon Musk, right? I mean, and he got to her first, right? And so guess what?
He probably saw some red flags.
He probably was like, yo, peace out. He's like, peace out. I like my pillow too much. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, dude, seriously, like sometimes people can keep you from going to where you want to go. And so you got to make sure you protect that kind of stuff, man. You got to make sure you guard that kind of stuff, man. And well, again, whether that's boys or whether that's female or whether that's family, man, because sometimes same thing, family, all these people can sometimes be like crabs in a bucket and will pull you right back in, man. And so you got to watch that stuff, man.
Yeah, you got to make sure whoever you are joining up with is either going to be an addition or support or going to be on that path with you, because it's your path, it's your purpose, it's your life. And so it's sad, makes me sad to think about so many people who had so much potential. They had so many dreams and things, and then they let little knuckleheads or little girlfriends or little things pull them back. And then they got stuck. They got stuck in the good old country dream. I knocked up my high school sweetheart, and we stayed, never left. And now my life is all about my kids.
Yeah. And again, man, these are the kind of wisdom. This is the kind of truth that we need to talk about. That we need to have these conversations, and we need to have these conversations with not only each other, but definitely with the next generation, man. And so, again, whether you want to consider it fatherly advice or whatever, sometimes it's just brother to brother advice, man. Sometimes it's like, you got to look at a brother and say, hey, man, you're trying to go somewhere where he's going to block you from going, or you're trying to go somewhere where they're going to block you from going. And so and that's why it's important to be careful what pack you're hanging out with as a wolf.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, who are you surrounded with? What guys are you surrounding yourself with, man? Are they going, or are they where you want to go?
Yeah, you got to do the math. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So are those people you want? Do you even like those people? Do you admire them? Are they even heading in the direction you want to go? Because you need to be very critical about who you spend your time with and energy with, because we, as humans, we tend to emulate who we're around.
Right.
So if you are not around people you really want to emulate, they might be your boys from way back when, and you've been in the same neighborhood forever. But if they're not going anywhere and you're hanging out with them, you're not going anywhere either. Yeah. It's really hard to drag yourself up and carrying 1,000 pounds of weight because you got 5 dudes pulling you down.
I'm telling you, man, it can be the brick that holds down your balloon. It's like, hey, do you want to be the guy paying $45 billion for Twitter, or do you want to be the guy suing for $15 million? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, for real, like these are the kind of questions that totally depend on who you hanging with, who you surrounded with, who you living life with, and what kind of advice you might be taking from somebody.
Yeah, and some wisdom. I mean, we've talked about nice guy syndrome, I don't know how many times on the podcast, and we're going to start bringing that up here, even on the radio show. If you are still in nice guy syndrome and you are avoiding other men and are just surrounding yourself with women who have friend zoned you and don't care about you unless they need something, it's time for you to man up. Get you some guy friends who will be honest with you, who will bust your chops and bust your butt and put a boot to your butt when you need it, so that you can, for number one, find out you are a man. You're not alone. And a lot of things you're going through that those ladies that you're hanging out with they just can't resonate with, because they're not men.
Yeah.
You won't be healthy. You won't be masculine without a wolf pack, a pack of men to hang out with. Plus, make sure you're hanging out with men that you emulate, that you want to be like, that will challenge you to grow better, because we're never done. I don't care how old you are. I was listening to Louise Hay today. She was 80, but she wrote or published or started Hay House and published You Can Heal Your Life.
Yeah.
She was a big part that you are always learning, you're always growing, but it depends a lot of times on who you're around, who you're with, and who you're listening to.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is why we want to have these conversations, man. This is why we want to have real talk, for you. I mean, this is why we want to have
the home for healthy masculinity.
Not that we got it all figured out, man, but over the course of this journey, as we look long term, man, we're planning on pulling in these things that'll bring us to where we need to be as men, and have these conversations that men need to have. Old men, young men, just men, that we need to have these conversations,
men to women, men to children,
absolutely,
to friends. I mean, these are all the conversations that we need to be having that unfortunately just are not being had out there nowadays.
And so that's why we love this thing. JBK,
let's wrap it up.
If somebody wants to get a hold of Jason B. Kendrick.
This guy right here.
How do they get a hold of Jason B. Kendrick?
Well, there are several ways. You can go to jasonbkendrick.com, JASONBKENDRICK.com. You can actually also email both of us at madmenofmasculinity@gmail.com. We can get your emails there. And if for some reason I may be busy, maybe on Mars, and you need to get a hold of Mr. Kirk M. Samuels because you need some support, you need some wisdom, you need some guidance from this bad man pajama over here, how can I get a hold of you, sir?
Man, I keep my website pretty easy, man. Pretty sure I went to public school, man. That's kirkmsamuels.com. kirkmsamuels.com. My phone number's on my website, man, and email everything. I just had a guy reach out to me, just even today, man. Said he read my book and he wanted a 15-minute coaching session, man. My first book is 4 Your Eyes Only, the inside scoop about men, porn, and marriage, man. And I help guys get free from all that stuff. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, man. And
that's a great point too. You can go on Amazon and look up both of us. Because I've got my 2 books. Kurt's got his book. He's got his second book that he let me contribute.
Well,
he's such a good guy. I like this guy.
I was honored to have that, man. But yeah, I mean, you can find us YouTube. Mad Men of Masculinity on YouTube, Facebook page, Mad Men of Masculinity on Facebook, and then man,
if you want to see what it looked like, go ahead and check out YouTube and Mad Men of Masculinity. We're actually going to send a lot of these that when we're recording, so you get to see behind the scenes in the studio without editing, because Nikki Nicole, super producer, we haven't figured out how to get her on YouTube yet, but we're going to figure that out.
Yeah. And man, we're all over the place. Pretty easy to find, but just search Mad Men of Masculinity. Google either one of us, man, and we'll be absolutely out here, man.
And we're here to help you. We love you. Have a good night.